Hello, everybody, and good evening. We are Hard Knock Dice, and this is Tavern Talks. Tonight's episode, we're going to be talking about Dungeon Master philosophy, and we're going to touch on the Matt Mercer effect as well. As if that horse hasn't been beaten enough, resurrected, beaten again, killed again, beaten, resurrected, so on and so forth. But we're going to do it. I'm Jonesy, Dungeon Master for Hard Knock Dice. These guys around me are some of my best friends. If y'all want to go ahead and introduce yourselves, go for it.
Who's going first?
I'll go first.
All right.
Hi, I am Ian. I currently am playing Gandalwin in our main campaign. I always have things to say, so yay. Boom. I don't know if you got it on my right or my left on screen, but this way, I think.
The other way.
This way.
And that's Matt.
Hello, I'm Matthew. I play Crowley in Hard Knock Dice and DM on occasion. Happy to be here.
And I'm Kent playing Ordeal in the Hard Knock Dice. Most of the time, am the person DMing for a lot of our friends, so it's a good topic to talk about.
Yeah, actually. Well, Kent wasn't the first DM. Cody was my first DM because he ran the two-person campaign that we were a part of. What was your character's name? God, it was the Lizard Folk, man.
Yeah, Laszlo the Lizard.
Laszlo, there it is. And I don't even remember my fucking character's name, man. I
Almost drown or something.
Wyatt was in that campaign too, though.
after the fact, he didn't start with us.
Okay.
Wyatt didn't start with us in that campaign because
To be uninformed.
Tim, if you do recall, was also in that campaign with us. He started before Wyatt did, and Tim died before Wyatt got in. Anyways, back on topic.
That's crazy.
So we wanted to start off tonight talking about dungeon mastering, what it's about, what it is, just our sort of take on it as well, because you have four people here, and I guarantee you have four different opinions on what a dungeon master does, and their role in a game. So yeah, we kind of want to start off with what our definition for a dungeon master is. And I think a lot of people's definition for what a dungeon master is, y'all correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think what a lot of people's definition of a dungeon master is the storyteller, right? Like that's the simple. If you were to just simplify what everybody says, like that's what they say. They're the storyteller for a DM group, which I think immediately throws some like wrenches in the gears of what I think it is. I don't think there's one storyteller at a table. I think there's everybody sitting there is a storyteller. Like for Hard Knock Dice in our main campaign, it's like I'm telling my story, the overarching storyline, but every single character there has their own story and they're telling their storyline as well. And
Real quick, apparently you're super loud.
I'm super loud. Oh God! Tell that man he's loud. I'm screaming. Okay, that's interesting.
Man, he's loud.
Brittany, I appreciate it.
The chat was like, "You're loud."
I need to read it. Apparently, Jones, please look at chat. Jones is screaming. Is that better? Well, let's do some audio checks first.
Yeah, I don't know. You sounded normal in the call, so I don't know why.
You're good beginning. I adjusted it 2 notches. Like,
Apparently, it only needed to be 1 notch. God.
all right. How about now?
Is
We're gonna-
anybody else overly
This-
loud?
This
While
is gonna
we're
be
at
the rest of the video. It's just testing out volume levels.
Yeah.
We were fine last week.
Yeah, these are the exact settings because my Go XLR saves the settings from session to session. Someone talk to me in chat. How is the set? I turned them up and I turned me down. How are we sounding now? How's the music? Can I get you something to drink while you're here? That is
We're
good.
good.
All right. Hydra says we're good. We're gonna continue on.
All right.
But yeah, I think you got several different storytellers at the table. What I think a DM is the impetus for the story, right? I think he or she, they is the driving force behind the storyline to keep them moving. He's your proverbial shepherd to your sheep. Except for these sheep, they're horny, they're murderous, they have ADHD, and they are incredibly intelligent. So
Hey, I didn't. That's a new one.
So
Yeah, fellas, I'm intelligent.
intelligent in the sense that you are sentient. I'll say it that way. So, but yeah, go from there, I suppose.
Intelligent, murderous fuck sheep. Gotcha.
That's what I think. I mean, sometimes you just gotta herd them in, and let's not act like that's an easy job. Anybody who has ever DM'd before knows that it's not an easy job to get, especially a lot of players that get their back and forth going on it, and then all of a sudden you're just standing there like a deer in fucking headlights, and you're like, oh my god, what the fuck do I do now?
Yeah, for sure.
Whatever could you mean?
I'm not talking about y'all. Y'all are the goal. Look, I was just trying to be a good mod and let you know it's loud. No, I appreciate it, dog. Appreciate you letting us know it's loud. Let us know if there are any other volume issues as we go through this. But let's hear it. What are your definitions for a dungeon master? I think that is my simple. If I had to put it in succinct, very few words, he's the impetus for the story.
I mean, yeah.
More than anything else.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the dungeon master is going to be the guy or lady or whatever who pushes the story along. But I think in a lot of ways, it's mostly like the ref decides, that's not going to happen, or this is going to happen. I mean, I've had many campaigns to where some of the more successful ones are just letting you guys and other people just go, hey, I have an interesting thing I want to do. All right, well, let's see what dice say. The dice will say what's happened, and then I'll try and extrapolate it into an event that occurs. And you guys are now rolling down this mountain, gradually gaining snow.
And then you blow up. It do be like that.
Indeed.
For those who don't know, my boy Ian here just took a little bit of an explosion under his pants in a Star Wars campaign.
Yeah, I blew up a couple weeks ago.
And he took a hard knock in the hard knock dice game as well.
Oh yeah.
But I'm not
Oh
dead
man.
yet.
Or are you?
Not necessarily.
Sure?
I don't know. I still don't know what that D20 you had me roll meant. So it's a mystery.
Two character deaths in 2 weeks. That's rough.
It's a bad luck. I feel more bad for Jones because Jones says he's planned out a lot of shit for Gandalf. So if I'm dead, I'm like, damn, that's crazy.
I have a lot of shit planned out for all of you.
But yeah. So referee to all the crazy shit that happens more than anything. I find it's completely okay in some cases if the players just want to go completely dumb mode and get into a bunch of shit. You just let them go. Just let them go for a little while, and eventually they'll point.
Can't let me pause you for a second. Mythos Tavern rating with a party of 4. Appreciate it, homie. Thank you.
Woo!
Tune in, guys. Drop a follow. Yeah, we're sitting here talking about dungeon mastering philosophy, and we're going to be talking about the Matt Mercer effect as well. So make sure you guys leave a follow. Thank you again, guys. I appreciate it. Much love. This D&D community got to stick together. Appreciate it, guys. Hell yeah.
Howdy, fellas.
But yeah, we're just talking about our dungeon definition of a dungeon master. We're just getting started. Appreciate it, homie. We're just getting started on our conversation about what it means to be a dungeon master and our definition for it. So we were just talking about my sort of definition being the impetus behind this story, and Kent is in the midst of his explanation of the dungeon master having a main role of being a referee. So just to catch y'all up, appreciate it again, guys.
Yeah, that was the gist of it.
There.
Most experienced players can take a story wherever, as long as you're there to just tell them yes or no whenever they try to do something.
I find that you'll wind up in gridlock a lot if you just kind of let them do what they want to. That's why I think impetus kind of sums it up for me, because you want to be pushing them. Loomer says their definition is the lawmaker of the world. Yeah, absolutely another like there are so many roles that a dungeon master fills. So many
that's what I
roles.
was like, it's so hard to just slap a definition on Dungeon Master because it also will fall a little more into what your group needs. Like if you are needing somebody who like a Dungeon Master who's falling a little more heavily into not necessarily a singular storyteller role, but more of like a story director that is giving your story direction. That you like that's a little more something they've got to deal with. Whereas if you're doing like more how Kent said, you're mostly just letting the players determine what the story is going to be and just kind of keeping everything from falling apart, where it's a lot looser and less directed. Like there's less of an overarching story going on perhaps, but yeah, like they kind of fall into all those camps. You gotta voice your characters, you gotta voice all your NPCs, you're playing a bajillion characters at the same time.
Yeah
There's just a lot on the plate.
Yeah, 100%. I think that's that lawmaker part of it where you're just setting those boundaries. The same thing Kent was talking about. It's just here's where you need to play, between no, that just happened to you, Kent. That just happened to you.
Stupid internet.
But like you're setting the boundaries, here's the world you're playing in. And then you need to have that as much as you have a left and right, like here are the outer boundaries of where you need to go. You have to have that driving force forward, I think, and that's like, I think this is where your big definition lies. But certainly, unrelated thing, I did 86 damage in one attack as a level 3 wizard 2 sessions ago. Oh. Holy shit!
Wizard damage beat.
Holy
Chris.
shit! You're gonna have to tell us that one.
You gotta be slapping.
Why aren't you guys doing 86 damage in one turn? Y'all are double their 11.
Whoa.
Come on, guys.
I didn't do the math, but I was pumping out fairly high DPR in that boss fight, so I don't hop off my nuts.
Brittany says, how? She's going to pull out a spell book. Oh, no, it turns out I was a wizard this whole time, guys. What are you talking about?
Multi-class incoming. All right, Matt, you're the only one that's been quiet over there with your definition.
I'm just, listening. When you asked me my definition of a DM, it really coincides with everyone. But one word always just sticks out to me when I think of the DM, and that is, of course, the Wrangler.
Yes.
You are the Wrangler of everyone.
Yep, 100%.
Keep everybody on task.
I mean,
all about them jeans.
To an extent.
I say that, but as an example, like I like to just paint very broad pictures and then let the players talk themselves up for a good half hour, so I can just sit there and be like, scribble.
Is there?
It's let them do whatever they want, and that's fine.
Right.
I'm a very relaxed DM, so I say wrangle, but I'm just slightly pulling on the reins. I'm never trying to choke somebody.
Matt likes to egg people on into making bad decisions.
I do not. All I stated.
Sure.
All I stated
you'll get a bonus to attack if you make that attack right now.
Yeah, that was a simple fact.
Egging him
the
on.
Target was unaware.
I refuse.
The target was going to notice him, and so this is a different campaign altogether. Listen to him not.
There's some jabs. There are some jabs going on right now. There's some meta conversation going on here.
There's a conversation going on about people that aren't even here, and it's truly their problem, not mine.
Mm-hmm.
The party survived.
Oh no, Hydra! It's not a debate. We're not there yet. Oh yeah, guys. By the way, if you haven't already, I'm just talking to these three right here. Set up your green screen, and whenever we're just at an impasse and we can't get past it, we're gonna go to the versus debate screen. So you
still got it.
So you got to just click on that green. I'm gonna know you're keyed in, ready to go to debate somebody once I see that screen.
Oh, it needs to be green. I was previously told it could be red. I will.
Needs to be green. I'll probably have to adjust it regardless because we didn't have a lot of time. It's not a debate. It's not a debate yet, Hydra. The emotions aren't there. Oh man. But anyways, all right. So we've kind of I think it sounds like we're settling on a lot of different definitions for a dungeon master, kind of what their job is, and it is because it just encompasses so much, right? Like it's not just moving the story forward. It's not just being a referee. It's not just wrangling your NPCs in, or not your NPCs, but your PCs in. but it is the NPCs, the creation of those attitudes, those voices, whatever the case is. It's knowing the characters. It's knowing the rules out of almost like.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Being able to clarify rules for players as they need them. Yep.
How important is that to you? For a dungeon master to be able to on the spot say yes, you can or can't do that based on this rule that I know or can look up immediately.
I mean, I guess part of it depends on your group. If you have a group that is very familiar with the rules, then it's not as big of a deal if for just double checking. But I'd say being pretty intimately familiar with the rules is pretty important. If for no other reason, then if you gotta stop and look stuff up all the time, it really interrupts the flow of play.
Bobicus in chat says
unless you're able to talk and do it at the same time.
Right. Bobicus in the chat says someone at the table.
Who can do it, it's awesome. Like if you have somebody at the table who can go, oh yeah, I actually do know the rules strategy. It's fantastic.
Luber says, I love being punished for knowing the rules better than my DM. It gets me going. All right, we got a masochist in chat over here. Oh man. But yeah.
I definitely would say it is important to at least be pretty familiar with them, so you don't have to look stuff up all the time.
Right.
If you don't know how every spell works, I don't blame you because there's a lot of them. But like some of the other stuff, it's like you're like it definitely if you were pretty familiar with like a lot the core rules, then you're gonna be in a I think that is pretty important to know. Other stuff you'll just kind of start to remember it as time goes on, so it's not as big of a deal. Or you'll have somebody at your table who happens to know. Hopefully the person who's using the spell. You never know. There are always those kind of situations.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be things that need to get looked up at the table, if it's not something that's going to be entirely unavoidable, but you definitely want there to at least be a situation to where you're not having something to where you have to look up every round of combat.
Right. There you go.
Right, but it doesn't necessarily need to be your dungeon master, is what I'm hearing from a lot of you guys right now. Even in chat, it seems like most as long as someone at the table knows the rules, that doesn't necessarily need to fall on the dungeon master to know every rule of your character, right? Because there's so much, like especially if a DM allows unearthed arcana or any sort of non-core D&D content, like. There's so much out there. Like eventually, I think it's like the DM learning curve is, it's eventual. He will get to the point, or she or they will get to the point where they learn your character. But that's gonna take some time because not like as soon as they learn your character, you're gonna level up and gain this ability that they literally haven't fucking thought of.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely very much on the players to be familiar with their own capabilities, so that you're not going, hey, can I do this thing? Unless it's like not explicitly stated, you're like, okay, so this is how my ability works, but could I also do this thing with it? Which then that falls a little more under you're deciding whether you're saying whether they can or not. Like you're being the lawmaker, you're making the rules.
Right. And Loomer in chat says she has they have sometimes party members. I say she because your name is Pink currently, and I don't know why I did that, but
my name is Pink.
But then, anyways, they say they sometimes have party members DMing me mid-session, asking if they can do something before it's their turn. I think it's so key to have a mixture of experienced players versus non-experienced players at the table. It makes a DM's life easier. I.e., it makes my life easier during our main campaigns for Hard Knock Dice when Brittany or Wyatt or anybody else who's newer to the game could just go to one of you guys, but like, hey, can I do this? Because you're in Discord or whatever the case is. They have you on Messenger, on speed dial, asking if they can do these sorts of things. It just makes that flow so much easier. I think as far as knowledge of rules go, as far as dungeon masters go, kind of just driving it back to that conversation, it's much more important in a world like hours where we're streaming our campaign versus a table campaign, like if we were playing
Absolutely.
if we were playing in person, right? Because it's
Yeah.
much more important to keep that story going because you're trying to provide something, right? Like versus people don't like watching people reading. That's not exciting. It doesn't matter where you're watching.
Wow.
If you're watching it on Hard Knock Dice or you're watching it on Critical Role, it is never exciting to watch someone read a book. That is my official opinion.
I'll start streaming my dramatic reading of something. I don't know.
Dramatic reading of Tasha's by Ian.
Boom.
The chef feat. The player gains the ability.
Bet.
Yeah, Mercy Monk the whole
Tosses
time.
bacon at the screen. So this bad boy right here.
Guys, we may be on to something. There may be some content here.
I'm just saying.
I'm pretty sure.
People listen to audiobooks.
Yeah, if I take that feat,
Listen
I'm
to
gonna just
somebody
take my
read.
webcam into the kitchen and be like, Jones, I'm using the cooking feat. I'll get back to you in 30 minutes. I'll let you know. Just tell me how much health we're gonna get.
Right.
Yeah, that'd be sick.
I'm pretty sure that's not something Wizards would be happy about. Here, just
Wizards-
download this video of this guy reading the entire book.
Oh man.
Stick it to the man, Kent. Stick it to the man. We're a bunch of rebels.
You just have to use nondescript words for some things, okay?
Oh God.
But I
This
think
was-
T's cauldron of everything, okay?
Oh God. Anywho, back on track.
about those ADHD murderous horny sheep that we were talking about.
I don't know what you mean.
Do you not? The official rules do you hate and don't use?
Official rules.
The official rules, you're talking about official source books. I don't hate them. I really love 5e. And that's coming from someone who started with 3.5.
Seems you have a question in
rules
the
we
chat.
kind of ignore.
Yeah, that's what I'm
Are we using standard carry weight?
That's-
Oh,
Of main
yeah.
campaign?
I mean, there are some rules you just ignore. I wouldn't say I hate them, right? I think if Jones was like, make sure you have a proper amount of weight, I would be fine because I have a 19 strength, but
I don't wear armor.
yeah.
It helps.
a majority of the time the official rules are like that your players are gonna find a way around them anyways. Like if Matt as Crowley said, oh man, I am for some reason carrying 452 pounds of lead in my backpack and I need to distribute that among the party, they would do so. It becomes tedious at that point to sort of call out these characters for weight. But as far as official rules go and sticking to that, I don't hate them. Like I said, 5e is super simple to me coming from someone coming from 3.5, and I really enjoy how intuitive they are. A lot of them are really intuitive for new players and even for someone that's transferring from a different edition. I skipped from 3.5 to 5. Actually, I skipped from 3.5 to Pathfinder to 5e.
We
Um,
Pathfinder for
Yeah, I did skip 4e. But
A lot of sagas.
hey, Loomer, I appreciate that follow. We appreciate that follow.
buddy.
Appreciate it.
Only rules I can think of that I dislike in all of 5e, probably the grappling rules.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yo,
Any-
that's a very good point. Grappling
everything
is
related
dicks
to
in
grappling.
5e.
because
And
I play
So
Good.
two different grappling characters, and I've played them two different ways, and it's a struggle either way.
just bad.
Well,
It's
let's
just
talk
so
about it.
bad.
Let's just say they're bad. What's lacking there as far as the as far
I
as
would
grappling?
say not just grappling, but most in combat athletics checks against another person, pushing them over, tripping them, all those things. Like,
Unless you're a battle
and
master.
I'm looking at you crazy right now because this is coming from a druid who can restrain things as a CR2 creature.
well, I don't grapple them though. I hit and it
Yeah,
automatically.
they automatically
Yeah.
become restrained. If you
Okay,
hit
that's what I was saying. You're saying athletics checks in general. But
right.
all right.
So like tripping someone in 5th edition, sure, all of your buddies can get advantage on them if they're around you, but if you're just two dudes fighting and you
doesn't
spend
cost
your
your action.
it spends one of your attacks to do it. So you knock them down, and you're like, okay, well, my next attack can get advantage, but it would have just been a lot better just to attack them 2 times. And in a group setting with multiple people attacking this target is going to be fine, but most people use advantage flanking anyway, so it doesn't really matter.
Yep.
So you just get up, and they're like, well, I'm glad you wasted half the movement that I wasn't going to use anyway.
Yeah. I think the only way like tripping is actually worth a damn is if you're a battle master, because it's part of an attack. You trip attack somebody. And so it's like, oh, I get to hit you twice. My second attack's just also gonna have advantage because fuck you. Yeah. Wow, because it makes a very good point.
I try though, especially with the flavor for characters I'm running with the action economy. It's pretty rough. Like, a lot of the time, if you don't have like expertise, or you have to use a lot of feats just to get really good at it as a humanoid. As a player character, if you're not a druid, you're kind of out of luck.
Yeah.
If you build straight fighter though, it can be decent.
I mean, it's one of those things like if grappling had more of the effects that restrained had, it might not be so dog shit. But literally all it does is, oh, you can't move. Congratulations. You can still sit there and pound the shit out of whoever's grappling you.
And they can beat you.
Hey, y'all just gonna sit there and hit each other while one of you giving a hug. You're holding them. You can't go anywhere, and he's just headbutting you over and over again. But you can sit there with your sword and go stab, stab. stab.
Have you never seen a UFC fight?
Difference.
This is how a UFC fight works.
Yeah. They can still cast even though they have like
they can cast even if you like try to There's no disadvantage. There's no penalties applied.
You need a feat to get to restrained, and then when you restrain them, you're both restrained, and so people have advantage on attacking both of you. Oh my goodness! I'm glad like when I use it, I play my grappling like a pro wrestler. I jump off the second story of something.
It's good flavor. It's great,
and I just give them the business as much as I can. I'm like, this is gonna hurt me, but it's gonna hurt you way more.
Right, and TFT's Loomer is like that's a valid point. There are use cases for things where even if it's like, but it's like if you're trying to kite somebody out and you want to trip them and then like shove them over and then back off so their AOP is at disadvantage. But so there are use cases. It's not like useless always, but it doesn't feel super good in a lot of use cases.
I think armor spikes in 5e are just as useless as they were in 3.5 because they
more so.
More so maybe, but they were still useless in 3.5 because they were I think they were a D4 and they never scaled. They never went up. Like there's no way you could do more damage by giving someone a big old bear hug.
Don't quote me on this, but I think it's +2 damage. You have to go into the actual class that gives you.
You have to have Battle Rager.
Yeah, you have to have Battle Rager to even like be proficient with it or whatnot.
Which is technically, if you go raw, if you go rules as written, is restricted to only dwarves. Stop it, Kent.
Yes. And,
it's supposed to be a dwarves only subclass.
Kent is the fucking Laura Bailey of our group. I swear to fucking God, you literally can't say anything that can be taken remotely sexual without him like raising an eyebrow at the camera.
Well, of course. Look at him in his sexy time robe. He's ready for it.
Like what's it called? Yeah, Path of the Battle Rager. It gets it's still so dumb that they're like, yes, dwarves only.
I mean, obviously, a DM can just hand wave it and all that.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's not too big.
DM better not be fingering anything.
It is still a 1d4 damage in 5e. Oh.
Yeah.
The spikes deal 1d4 piercing, and you get to use your strength mod for it.
They were that bad.
I guess it gives you. And oh wait, that's if you use it as your bonus action. So it gives you a way to freely weaponize your bonus action as a barbarian. And when you use the attack action to grapple, they take 3 piercing damage if the grapple check succeeds. So yes, it's still fucking terrible. No matter how you look at it, it's bad.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that there are a lot of rules that, you could wish were a little bit different, but I don't think they're bad. Like, I think a lot of the less martial classes not getting extra attacks eventually is kind of shitty. Just things like that.
But to be fair, all of the martial classes that aren't fighter only ever get 1 extra attack. So it would kind of suck if you're sitting there as the ranger and you only got 2 extra. Right, you only got 1 extra attack, and then you're looking over and you've got your bard plinking away with his short bow just as frequently as you are. Like,
That's
man, that
not-
kind of
Listen. Don't come in here with the Ranger, which should be the focus of things that are bad in 5th edition, and try and compare it to other good classes. Okay.
Hey, there are Ranger subclasses that now exist that make Ranger not nearly as bad.
Drake Warden. I enjoy
Hori-
Drake Warden.
Horizon Walker and
Gloomstalker.
Gloomstalker being
Gloomstalker,
named as being good subclasses for Ranger. And they've done a lot to make Beastmaster less shit with Tasha's. So
Sure. Agreed. They have.
Bobicus in chat says, I mean, if you have a scenario where one of the enemies vastly outclasses the others, then grappling and restraining that guy is useful. But because of the bounded accuracy thing, the higher CR monster does not severely outclass their minions.
yeah, bounded accuracy is can be kind of a oof at later levels of play. Because it feels like you're.
I think also grappling is really strong for, maybe not for players, but definitely for monsters that you guys go against when monsters can have it that have like tentacles of a 15-foot reach or whatever the case is. They reach out and grapple a PC. That's an incredibly powerful tool for a DM. Like, I love that shit.
I'm not gonna lie though, nothing
Crocodile
compares to playing a Rune Knight and getting to huge size and just grappling something and breaking walls around you, and you're just like, ah!
Yeah, it's another one of the things similar to tripping. Like it has use cases. Everything has use cases. But like if you want to make your grappling character, you're kind of gonna feel underwhelmed if that's like their thing.
Right.
Like if you take Tavern Brawler for
Yeah.
grappling or anything like that, you're just like, this kind of sucks. As a theme. So it's not great to have as your character's focus. It feels bad to have as a character's focus, but it does. You definitely can use it for things if you have somebody who has a lot of strength.
So no luchadors is what I'm hearing.
Yeah, we gotta have the luchador book. That's gotta be the next fucking.
Yeah, I feel like
Wizards,
if I
you
were-
heard it here first. We want our cut at the end of it. We want the luchador book, okay?
I'm gonna write Jeremy Crawford right now. Send it over to Wizards.
Jeremy Crawford, Chris Perkins, hit them all up while we're at it. Let them know what the deal is.
We can get Keith Baker in here. We can have the Luchador squad of Warforged. They just all have. It's just their face. That's the mask.
They're gonna be like, who
There's
are these
painted
guys?
weird.
I don't even.
Bobicus says, I mean, the grapple and trip combo is amazing if you don't have a fighter on your team and don't use flanking.
If you're
you
not
don't use
using
flanking.
flanking rules, a lot of things get a lot less bad.
You know, I always forget that flanking in 5e is an optional rule. There's the little subclass, like as far as optional flanking rules go. I do forget about that.
So are feats. That's always
Yeah.
a weird thing for me to remember is that feats are a thing that you don't just go to a game and they're like, yeah, we don't do those here.
Yeah.
It's like one of those things. I've never been in a game where someone's turned down flanking or feats yet. Maybe
You
one
only
day I will
played
have
without
to.
flanking. Really?
I feel like a game that says that they don't allow feats is basically saying we don't like humans here. Go away with your humans.
Very human. That and we don't like people who use Great Weapon Master. Fuck you. Which actually does a lot to help balance out your other options. You'll feel a lot less shitty about going like 2-weapon fighting because you'll be like, hey, look, this is a lot more valid now. Only one attacking from behind to get an advantage.
Ooh. Okay.
That could be a more interesting way to balance it and make it a lot less like overpowered. Though you're then having to make sure that you're having to make sure you know which way the monster or whatever their opponent is facing at all times, which would be a little more for the DM to have to keep track of. But it's no different than if like you're fighting a beholder, because you have to do the same thing. You have to know which way the beholder's facing.
Yeah, I think that's super easy.
But just all the
Even
time.
in Theater of Mind, I think that's easy as far as like if someone is focusing on you and either one has already attacked you or you have already attacked it. If that's the case, then it's super easy to determine this is the way that enemy is focusing, right? Like I think that's really easy to rule. That Loomer, that's a good point. I like that. I like that a lot, and it's interesting. Bobicus has never played with flanking. I think I've always played with flanking, no matter what.
I don't think I've ever not. Well, it's because we came from 3.5 and 3.5 and Pathfinder, which flanking was baked in.
Right, it wasn't optional in
Yeah, so we
3.5.
came into it and trying to play without flanking rules, we would have been like, that's weird.
Also,
I
just
like
the idea of giving players or NPCs, like giving your enemies positional advantage, like that can be super strong. Like if you have a lot of lower level minions, giving them the chance against your higher level party by just flanking them from everywhere.
They have a lot higher chance to just crit your dick off.
Yeah.
Yep.
It'd be like that.
Oh man.
But
Right.
and also if you have a rule, flanking kind of makes Wyatt's totem a lot less good
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
because we can get the same effect that his totem gets by just standing on the other side of a thing.
Right.
It's not going to help that most of the time I'm
Mhm.
giant snake wrapped around stuff, giving everyone advantage anyway.
Right.
Right.
Trying to restrain something like that's. I mean, it's one of those things where I didn't have a ruling on because that was a custom monster you guys went against this past Saturday, where it was immune to flanking, but it was also a creature the same size of you, but because it says it couldn't be, grappled or restrained, rather, or your restraint didn't have it in the ruling that you couldn't restrain that type of creature. I
Right.
wasn't going to rule it that way. Like if I don't know the rule, and I just want to kind of tailor this conversation back to the dungeon mastering side of things, like.
Mhm.
If I'm not sure of a rule, I'm going to lean it in my player's favor. Is there any?
Glad you did because we got our dicks handed to us anyway. So
I think you did. No, but not a lot of.
I don't know.
people did.
pretty sure both James and Wyatt looking a little.
Right.
Oh,
What are you guys talking about? I didn't lose any hit points.
shut up, Ken. I'm just saying, Cody got half health and then some in one hit. So
Right.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
yeah, I'm
Anyway.
just standing in the back with a bow next time. Fuck y'all.
But I you don't got any armor. You just need to get out of the way. In any case,
Man. Loomer says they dropped it the next session, talking about that rule where the only one behind them had flanking advantage. They said they dropped it the next session though, as the way we faced was determined by how our characters were rotated on the screen, and we kept forgetting. Yeah, that's kind of what I think Ian was going back to, is that you're gonna have to have someone keeping track of that, whether that's the player of that token remembering that, or whether that's the DM remembering which way they were focusing. That's where like some sort of binary tool would come into effect there, like for the DM, like when he has his initiative roll, if he's facing one way or the other, just putting a quick input and saying like he's facing this way, I think would be super useful. But yeah, no, that's
For the DM to keep track of if you have like a bigger
100%.
party or if it's like a bigger encounter, like if there's a bunch of minions or something. Oh, that'd be I'd be like, nah, y'all players, y'all better remember which way you're facing, or I'm assuming you're being flanked. Like they're about to get advantage on that attack.
right.
Incentivize people to remember.
Well, you want to incentivize them, but you also want to rule in their favor. That's kind of what I was just talking about. It's like, if I don't know as the DM,
Fuck them kids.
I'm going to rule in favor of the player. No. All right. Note to self, never play in a campaign with Ian. That one shot you were talking about, I'm good, fam.
That's okay. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
They're not gonna live long anyway.
adding on to Ian's comment, I do believe that one of the main functions of the DM, even if I wouldn't necessarily define it as it, I think, is to make sure everyone's having fun.
That's a good point. Yeah, make sure everybody's
Yeah.
having a good time.
Yeah. So
Part of that is
people,
making sure people are properly challenged.
right? Which, hey, I mean, last Star Wars, you guys,
Blew up. Kaboom!
that was
I'm holding a grudge against the 4 people that decided to go grocery shopping.
Bobicus,
4 motherfuckers.
let's hear
Cosmic
a
grudge.
question, man. Speed running modules. Good idea.
Define
Oh.
speed running? Question mark? Like, just see how fast you can get through the material?
that's an easy question to answer. Does your party seem to like it?
Yeah, I guess it just comes down to the table. Like, would everybody have fun doing it? Like, and are you meaning like to see, like, how much of the module can you like cheese? Like, how many encounters can you just completely nullify? Like, and that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'd like to know what you mean by speed running, because speed running it comes with this idea of knowing what's going to be taking place, right?
Right.
So like the traditional sense of speed running, like a Mario game or whatever the case is, means you know what's coming in that course. So if the players already know what's coming, I'm not sure you're going to have fun with that unless you just have players, and I think they exist, power gamers, Ian, Kent, and Matt, actually, all three of you are power gamers. Oh, I'm going to start right now.
What
That's
is
fine.
power
I will take on all three of you right now. All three of you are power gamers. Anyways.
Let's start the argument right now.
Well,
With the green screen. Where's the green screen?
Wait a
Anyways. No, I'm Dungeon Master. We're moving on from that.
This ain't a game.
If you have players
have no power.
that enjoy building a character that is just that is just the most optimal for that campaign setting, and wants to and you want to be able to see, how quickly you can get through, how many rounds you can get through that boss fight or whatever the case is, and everybody's having fun, yeah, why not? I mean, if that's what you would want to do, like theory crafting, I know Ian has said it before, it's like one of his favorite things is like seeing is how much damage he can get in a round, or how much he can get to an attack in a round is just to some people. Some people don't have a good time for that. So it really does depend. Like these guys said, it really depends on who's at your table.
Combats are just everybody rolling dice as fast as possible. As long as you tell the rest of your party, like, hey, this is what I want to do, and they're all aboard, go for it.
Yeah.
And then do it in person and record it so I can see you just literally throwing dice at your party.
Yeah,
members.
just like as little tactics as possible. If like you really want to do it, a fun way you could do it is like you have one of those little like timers, and it's like, yo, you don't get much time to think about your turn. You better do something with it.
Even better, get a chess timer. DM versus party. Swap.
That's exactly what I was thinking
would be
about.
Insane.
That's exactly what I was just thinking about.
That'd be a much more entertaining way of doing it. Of like, all right, what's the quickest way to solve each of our problems? Like,
initiative will always be DM player. Whoever takes the longest, you're dead.
Yeah, I like that a lot better. That could be pretty fun. I would definitely, one of those things is like, hey, you guys want to do something that's kind of fucking stupid today? Like, do tell.
I feel like speed running any sort of module or campaign or whatever you're doing would be good for like a one shot. I don't know how sustainable it would be, or how much fun I would have as a player trying to keep that same sort of, because I mean in my campaigns I enjoy the slow times sometimes, right? Like I enjoy those chances to breathe and the role playing time. So just like running from combat to combat, rolling dice as fast as you can, could be tiresome. I
will touch on this subject one more time. It's like there was one system that was like, applied for like 5e and horror, and they were like, you know what you can do to add suspense? Add a Jenga tower. Every time you interact with like a horrific thing, pull from the Jenga tower. Now do that in a speedrun scenario. 10-minute game. Maybe.
Loomer has a really good question in chat. She says, in reference to my last comment, how do you feel about punishing your players with loss or XP or other in-game mechanics for out-of-game things?
Thank you, Dread. Or Bob.
I think I'd need some more clarification to come up with an opinion on that. I'm not gonna lie.
They have an example a little higher up.
Yeah,
They said they lost 100 XP
because they were late. Oh wow.
No,
but they were given a way to earn it back in game.
So I'm gonna turn that over to y'all. What do y'all think about that? I'll give my opinions on it last.
I dislike it. I know some DMs that are like, if you don't show up, you won't gain any XP, and that's fair. But if you show up at any point, you should get XP because you made the effort to be there. It's not, I think that's a horrible way to treat a player, especially when they're taking time out of their day to get there.
Sometimes, like, even if you can't make it at all, it's like sometimes it's just unavoidable. Like, there's real life shit that goes on, and especially if it's just a game where y'all are just playing, around a table. Like, there's no, like, literally the only problem is just, well, you're just not present. like I think really taking any kind of penalty for real life stuff is kind of not a good idea. Because even if they're like a problem player, that's not like punishing them in game isn't going to incentivize them to behave. It's going to make them be pissed off and be more of a dick.
Yeah, I was kind of going by context to what they were saying. Like, dude,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, the player showed up. Don't
Yeah,
do
if you show up late and yeah, you'd lose some
That's
XP because
creating
that, like,
unnecessary tension.
exactly.
Playing D&D, it's already hard enough to find tables to play at. Why are you, you know, chastising a player? You're gonna run them off, and I can't say to how many players this guy has waiting to play his games, but come on now.
Yeah, I don't think I'd ever want to take experience away from a player. I mean, if it was like, I know the like Vampire the Masquerade and stuff, you know, and their guidelines are like, if you show up, you get one experience just for everyone being there. Sure, if they didn't show up, okay, don't give them that experience, right? That's fine. I understand that. But if you show up, you still should get the experience. And I don't really believe just, I guess, as DMing philosophy to take things away from players, especially experience, because of out of character actions, or even taking experience away from someone unless they literally had like an experience draining effect on them. Like,
Right.
First
I don't think
time
I'd
late
want
after.
any negative reinforcement like that on a player just as a DM.
Yeah, I'm looking at the chat. First time late after playing with them for 22 sessions. Like, was this rule always in effect? Did you guys know this rule beforehand, or did he just spring it up on you out of nowhere? That
would super suck if like it hadn't there was a thing that was never mentioned, and then oh, by the way, that's super
never stated
kinda
before.
scummy.
Even more dubious.
All right.
Yeah.
Man.
So I don't want y'all to gang up and beat me up. Is it okay to? All right. One, I don't run my campaigns based on experience. I do milestone level ups. It's the way I run my campaigns. I don't enjoy XP counting. I don't enjoy. I've tried sessions before where I've said, you know, monster kills get you experience points. You know, I've ran campaigns where when the party defeats a monster, it adds that. It's boring. It doesn't add anything for me. It doesn't add anything for the players. I hate it. So I do milestone, and I level them up that way. So context is key, and I'm glad you added that last comment. It's the first time late after playing with them for 22 sessions, because here's what I'll say as a DM. What could be frustrating, I think frustrating is probably the best word here, Loomer. If you would have been late for 10 sessions in a row, and you seem to not care as much as everybody else did at the table about that game, and he said, all right, everybody else level up except for you, and he, even if he didn't say that, or I'm sorry, I do the same thing Matt does, where I put myself in that person's shoes. If I were to say, like, you had made it a habit to be late to games, I would say 100% you deserve that. I would say if you make it a habit to where you turn up at the table and you're on your phone consistently and I have to call your attention back onto the game, 100% you deserve that. But if you are there on time, 22 sessions in a row, hey, Madbot, appreciate that follow, my guy. Thank you for tuning in. But I would say if you are there for 22 sessions in a row on time and real life stuff happens. I understand it with these guys. We have a character actually, and I'm just going to pull real life into this. Milo, Tyler at Tyler Chase Games on Twitter, if you guys want to follow Milo on there. In our session actually has military duties that he does every month. He has to leave every weekend once a month to go do those things. 100% understand. Am I going to penalize Milo? No. Will I do silly shit like seasickness to write him off for that session? 100%. But will I hold him back a level or anything for that? No. I think it is all about your commitment as a player. If you show up and you're at a phone, or if you show up late every time, I 100% agree with showing a player that their actions, their out of game actions, will have consequences on them in game if they want to keep playing. If they show something of value in the game and you've already had that conversation, I think it's perfectly okay.
Let's not even talk about holding XP from a military personnel when they're on active duty. Like, that'd raise a whole nother flock of, terrible discussion. But I'm really interested in this next question. Bob asks.
Bobicus says, I hate milestone and I hate XP, but my players hate level 1. Should they just deal?
Yes, they should.
How are they gaining levels if no XP and no?
Wait. You hate milestone and you hate XP, but your players hate level 1. So if you hate milestone and you hate XP, how do you enjoy progression at all? I think is the question. I don't know. That's like, how do you personally, Bob? Because I think would come down is like, how do you progress your players? Give them more abilities. I think that's sure, but they have to earn it. Yeah, but that's the thing is they have to earn it. How? Because with my players, I use milestone, which is they're either hitting a milestone in my story, or they hit a milestone in defeating some badass monster, or they hit a milestone in their personal stories. I like leveling them up based off of that. Or you use experience and just use a bunch of math and nerd shit to level them up. I am singling. I am singling. I am singling everybody who levels up via XP in D&D. You are more nerdy than I am, and I play D&D. But yeah,
by XP. So
yeah, it's all dependent on milestone for me. So, yeah, I mean,
don't forget, milestone can also mean you just one day wake up and you're like, my party should be next level.
I suppose. It's not how I do it, but I suppose.
Yeah. You should do it more often, Jones. How about that?
I have too much to explain. I've already told y'all this too. I have too much to explain between levels 5 and 20 for me just to give y'all free levels.
I'm kidding. I don't need
so,
levels.
Bobicus,
wake up in the morning like an Elder Scrolls game.
Yeah, a new day has begun. You feel stronger than you were before.
You go to bed at night.
A new insight has appeared.
I mean, Bobicus, I think that comes down to a session 0 thing, which I think we actually should probably talk about before we hop into Matt Mercer stuff. Is session 0 is if your players hate starting at level 1, but you want them to start at level 1, clarifying that expectation for them, saying this will be a level 1 campaign. I think it's perfectly acceptable for a DM to want to run a campaign for anybody and say this will be a level 1 campaign.
Yeah, I agree. Like, a lot of players, they tell me a lot of time, oh yeah, it'd be great to start at level 3, and I'm like, sure, roll a level 1 character though.
Yeah, like as long as everybody is on the same page going in, it's like y'all knew what you were getting into. You have every right to go, I'm not really feeling like playing that kind of game, and so I don't feel like participating.
Yeah. And obviously you can turn up the dial to 11 and get them to like 3 or more faster, but there are just some things you can't do, like like combat, like things rely a lot more on your players working together and stuff at a lower level. Like if they're not working together, they're going to die really quick, and so you're going to miss out on a lot of experience, not starting out from level 1. But of course, some players have played the system multiple times. They're like, start me at 5.
Yeah. When you're playing with more and more experienced players, they have a tendency to want to be able to do more stuff earlier on.
I think, the big thing for me of not wanting to start off at level 1, because I don't like starting off at level 1 in 5th edition, especially, is that I don't like not being able to have an archetype. And it's like, I could just be a sorcerer and have it at level 1.
Or cleric.
Why should a paladin not be? I mean, I'm not saying that they're imbalanced in that manner, but I feel like it's kind of lame. And I also might have an idea for a kind of character that I want to play that can't remotely do any of those archetypical things until they hit that point to where they can start using that kind of magical stuff or whatever the case may be.
So, Bobicus, I would really think it depends on your party in the sense that, do you have very experienced players? Because, and I am absolutely ripping this off, but I can't remember who to credit it to. If I do, I will edit it in later in the YouTube video somewhere right here. But if I remember who to credit it to, but levels 1 through like 1 through 3 are for players getting used to the game. 100%. If they are not used to D&D 5e, start them off at levels 1 through 3.
Yep.
Levels 3 through 5 are people getting used to the class. So if you have someone who has never been used to that class before, you know, you have someone who's never played a wizard, someone who's never played a College of Spirits bard, whatever the case is, you start them off at 3 to 5. If you have a table full of experienced players, I think starting them off at level 5 starts them off with everything that they need to have a good time. Which is exactly what I did with this table. I added in newer players later on. Everybody at my table has had some experience of D&D. Maybe not necessarily with their classes, but they are very, very intelligent as far as D&D goes. More than half of my party. The only new player to D&D that I brought in was Kaushik or Brittany, and she's picking up very quickly, and she has a big support group. So it completely depends on the party that you're playing with.
She played a druid one time 10 years ago.
One session, not even an entire session, because she went off in the woods and she fell asleep. Right.
She did play a sorceress.
She made her character based off of Storm. Regardless of that fact, you know, some more experienced players, like, you know, you got to ask yourself as well, is your team just starting out? Do they want to kind of explore story, like their character coming up? Then put them at 1. There are some experienced players that enjoy level 1 to, I'm not going to say 20 play, because I don't know if you've ever made it to 20. I've never made it to 20.
Never made it to 20.
Maybe one day.
Tragic.
Kent, you ever made it to 20?
Technically, no. I have played at 20.
That means Hard Knock Dice will be our main campaign. Will be the first campaign we've run until 20th level. Get ready for it.
Woo!
It's happening.
Do you know how my luck goes with that? You're gonna get literally struck by lightning now.
Dang.
Your luck.
Dang.
You're saying I'm gonna be struck by lightning, and that's your luck.
Yeah, you won't be able to
decide who
you won't
the
be able to
next
take
DM
the
is.
campaign there.
Who's the next DM? I say
Write
make
it in
Kent.
your
You're
will.
gonna kill us all off.
Write it in your will.
On it. Don't worry, fellas.
I don't know whether. You know what? No, all right.
Jones
Well,
like, I'm gonna die. So Ian's the DM. So you're all.
See you guys later.
They still have superimposed.
Loomer says the highest they've got is to level 7. Wow, I think I've started campaigns off at level 10.
I think the highest I've been is 8.
Yeah, no, like straight through though. Well, that's a good question.
Yeah.
Highest I've
If we
been
want to say
is 11.
starting from level 1, my highest level is 6. Because I've very rarely do we ever start level 1.
Yeah, we don't start at level 1 very often.
Like from level 1, a campaign where I start at level 1 and go forward, the farthest I've gotten is levels 1 through 6.
I think I've done 3 to 8
I'm
before.
sorry about that. Okay.
I'm not even talking about we didn't start at level 1 in your campaign. I'm talking about Craig for Tuesdays.
Bobicus
How many
says I've
months?
done 1 to 11 or 13. Can't remember which, but it was a milestone. That's hella good. If you run a campaign 1 to 13, that is hella good.
That is like a good, unless you're like leveling up every session, and then you're like, wait a minute,
Hard Knock.
cheating.
I lucked out, joined the guys. They've been playing for 2 years, so I got to roll straight to like level 9 or 10.
Jesus Christ.
Luber says this is a campaign I'm in at the moment. We expected to get to 12, I think. Why not past that? You expected to get to 12. So it's a module, so you expected the end to it. Okay.
I mean, that's the nice thing about modules. You can like always transfer into the next module, so y'all could finish up Tomb of Annihilation. Tomb of Annihilation is supposed to be really long though. It's supposed to be like a like big long module.
Right.
Yeah, I think my brother's running one. I can't remember how long it is though, but I've seen some of the end game for it. No spoilers.
There's some of them. Isn't Rime of the Frost Maiden or whatever? Isn't that one also one of the long ones?
Yeah, I believe so. I
1 through
couldn't speak with any authority.
1 through 12 is a long module. That's a lot of content made for you. I think yeah, you could absolutely continue on after that
Heck yeah.
if your DM wanted to. We started at level 1 and we just leveled up to 4 last session. Very nice.
Congrats.
That's that first
nice.
ASI, baby.
Getting some feats if you haven't multi-classed, etc., etc.
Bruh. ASIs.
Let me ask the chat, Bob and Loomer, what classes do you guys play? Like, put up some builds. Let me see this. Let's critique.
Critique. Hey, we got.
Oh,
But
no.
we're supposed to talk about DM philosophy.
Yeah, we are on our last hour here. So I am gonna Conjuration Wizard. Oh Lord.
You gotta chat with you gotta, bounce off the chat. Conjuration Wizard. First wizard too. Damn.
Wizards are so fun. Casters. My shit.
You're a wizard, Loomer.
Yeah. We'll bounce off some of that too, but I kind of want to get us back to the DM philosophy and Matt Mercer effect thing. So we are in our last hour, and I know there's a lot to be said about the Matt Mercer effect, especially for any DMs in the chat. So I kind of want to hear it from you guys. And all of us have DM'd to some degree or another. So to those who don't, hey Mythos, he waves his hand. Yep, DM here. So, Matt Mercer effect. For those who don't know, I'm just going to give kind of a brief summary of what the Matt Mercer effect is. Critical Role came out. Critical Role is oh god, the biggest show in D&D right now, where you have several different voice actors, including Matt Mercer himself, who voices things like McCree and tons of other things, where he is the DM. He is a phenomenal storyteller. Like, he is the gold standard of storytelling. And I don't think I am causing any debates here by saying that currently Matt Mercer is the gold standard of DMing. And they stream every week. And what Matt Mercer, they've labeled this thing called the Matt Mercer effect, because a lot of people have come into the game because of Critical Role, which is a great thing. A lot of people have gotten interested in D&D because they've seen Critical Role, they see it, they get very, very, very interested in it. He looked like he could be a distant relative to Matt Mercer. It's the Gilmore's cloak. He is rocking the crit roll gear.
No haircut since coronavirus.
Woo! So he's saying Matt Mercer looking like a ragamuffin.
Yeah.
But,
It's wrong.
Compliment to me, insult to him. It's fine.
But Matt Mercer and Critical Role have brought a lot of people to Dungeons and Dragons and to tabletop role-playing games in general. That a lot of people have taken this and kind of skewed it, in my opinion, into a negative thing, because their players come to the table and have high expectations of them. They come to the table and they expect the same sort of storytelling that they see on Critical Role. So there is a huge movement on Twitter and everywhere else where people will blame Matt Mercer or do hashtag Matt Mercer effect. And they'll blame Matt Mercer for bringing in these people to D&D and increasing the expectations on them. So kind of want to go in. We'll go in a circle here and just kind of your thoughts on the Matt Mercer effect, or if it exists, or whatever the case is.
All right. Which way do we want to go? We gotta think about pattern for this.
It doesn't matter. Whoever gets a thought in their head first.
Yeah, I think just regarding the Matt Mercer effect, I obviously DM in a bubble. I pretty much have DM'd with the same group of people, adding in folks and taking away folks here and there for years and years now, so it hasn't really affected me too much. I mean, honestly, people who get into Dungeons and Dragons and expect their DMs to be Matt Mercer, okay, big deal. You either enjoy it or you don't. Like, I don't really think it's a problem. Someone might be disappointed by it, but if it's that much of an issue for them to have that, then they need to kind of like reassess what D&D is, which is supposed to be having fun with your friends. So just kind of take a step back and chill out. Just have a good time, man. It's okay if they don't make voices or if they have a shitty English accent. It's fine. It's completely fine.
Right.
Strong Slav.
Mythos says, because he's talking about it directly in chat, and he's our fellow DM out there, says he hasn't minded the Matt Mercer effect so far. He's benefited from hearing that a player is a Critical Role fan and knowing that they're in it for the story, which happens to be Mythos's favorite part of the game as well. And he likes to remind players at session 0, that is so key to my point of view as well. He likes to remind players at session 0 when I tell them that they have to make decisions that drive their story, that they drive their story, that they get out of the game what they put in. 100%.
Absolutely. Most definitely. I definitely think it's been more of a problem for things that are like for games that do involve more people that are coming in that are new. It's definitely we as a group haven't had to deal with it as much. I actually can't. I actually think I can pretty strongly say that we haven't dealt with it at all. I don't think we've had anybody who's all of a sudden been like, man, y'all aren't insanely talented at this as Matt Mercer is. Like, but I do think it while I don't think it's, you know, it definitely shouldn't be putting, like, you shouldn't be disappointed, like you should be, like, kind of saying, like, focusing, like, the point is to have fun, right? I definitely think that it does help. Question mark. I have not DM'd yet, so I can't say. I can only say that I would, hypothetically speaking, it would, if I knew that I had somebody coming into the game that had started playing because of Critical Role and had those higher expectations. While I'd want to kind of, be like, settle down, there, not going to be professional. It would, however, want me to, like, try a little harder and try to be a little, at least, even if I'm not super comfortable doing a lot of that same shit, at least try to do it, right?
Right.
Like, dip my toes in trying to push the extra mile, right?
But like I say, Madbot has said in chat, who's Matt Mercer? And Crowsome can't hear us gave an explanation of McCree from Overwatch. Well, I'm technically not wrong. Because he 100% does.
He is right.
He does voice McCree from Overwatch. Matt Mercer is also the dungeon master for Critical Role, a very popular Dungeons and Dragons. Oh god, I don't even know how to summarize it. YouTube channel, Twitch stream, podcast, all of the above.
Phenomenon.
Yeah, like he is the dungeon master for this group. So it has brought in so many people to Dungeons and Dragons. Like, tons of people have seen Critical Role and come to Dungeons and Dragons just because of that. Just to go back to that.
Bobicus was saying something that's very similar to what I was as I was iterating my thoughts. That honestly, one thing I've noticed is people are more willing to attempt voices and accents and things because of a Critical Role. And I'd say that's an incredibly positive effect of that. It's that the people who at least weren't complaining about it are now making a more concerted effort. They're like, oh man, that makes the experience so much better.
And this is where my point comes in.
Yeah,
so,
I did the same thing.
So, and
it makes people try to strive to improve, which is awesome.
Yeah, and this is where my point comes in, because a lot of people view the Matt Mercer effect as a negative thing because their players come in and expect Matt Mercer, right? I don't think that's a negative thing. If a player comes in and they expect Matt Mercer at their table, like Mythos was saying at the very, very beginning, session 0, that's where you clarify expectations, especially if you have new players. Kent was saying earlier that we DM in a bubble. We do. We've all known each other for years and years and years now. Like, I've known Ian since before he could pronounce dictionary. Like, I've known all of these guys for a really long time. All of these guys for a very, very long time. So we DM in a bubble, and this is a very close-knit friend group. Everybody I've known here, I've known since at least high school. So we DM in a bubble. But if you do have those players coming in and you've never DM'd for them before, session 0 is incredibly important. Session 0 is important, plain and simple. But session 0 is incredibly important as a DM, especially if you've never DM'd for these players before. If they're coming in, especially if they're coming in because of Critical Role, you say, listen, I am no Matt Mercer. Plain and simple, I am not a voice actor. I will not be able to do a good voice acting experience for you like Matt Mercer does. But I will try. I'm going to try and deliver you that same storytelling experience, that same voice acting experience, all of the above. But I will try. I am something more. Exactly, Babakis. But the thing is I like to compare Matt Mercer to your Michael Jordan, right? Like, Matt Mercer is the golden standard for now. But there will be better storytellers. There will be better storytellers out there. They will learn from Matt Mercer. They will have natural charisma. They'll come into this game. They will be televised. The only thing different that Matt Mercer has from other DMs out there is the fact that he has a platform. I think there are tons of really, really talented DMs out there, and I'm not trying to take anything from Matt Mercer. Matt Mercer is very talented, but he's televised. And a lot of players coming in.
That he's also got, like, especially the way D&D's evolved, especially recently. It's not only Critical Role, but a lot of television shows, a lot of actors have started coming out, which have also propelled an interest in D&D, and Matt Mercer just happens to be there to help, like, perpetuate his status as a storyteller.
Right, I mean, and also having an entire cast of people who act for a living is pretty helpful. It's kind of like a perfect storm.
Just to kind of call back real quick, Abacus says one day we'll get our LeBron. That's exactly where I was going with that metaphor. With Matt Mercer's our Michael Jordan. He's the first of the greats, but we will get LeBrons. We will get other greats in this game. Like, you don't think that Kobe Bryant or LeBron James stepped onto the court thinking that Michael Jordan is the golden standard and I will never be that good. That's not how they thought. 100%. DMs, step your game up. Plain and simple. If you're sitting here, you're watching Matt Mercer, and you think he is the golden standard and he is causing your game to be worse than it is, step your game up. Plain and simple. There's a gold standard out there. Beat it.
And some people will always swear by Space Jam 1 and would never watch Space Jam 2 because of LeBron. There you go.
Well, it'll never come out.
Yeah.
Well, they still talk about it, so I'm obligated to mention it. Like, when we're in the retirement home, it's like, hey, old man, you want to watch Space Jam? Sure. Okay, I'll put LeBron on.
Now, something I would kind of like to touch on briefly, because the point of this is to focus on DM stuff, is I think the Matt Mercer effect kind of goes both ways. It should be more of a Critical Role effect. I think there should be higher standards for players as well, because all the players in that game have shown that, like, you can do a lot to steer the story and have impact as your player. And they're also all incredibly talented voice actors and storytellers in their own right. And it's like it's kind of, it needs to be expected across the board, across the whole table. Everyone should strive to improve their play.
Well, it's a different experience.
You're just doing a murder hobo party.
Right. It's a different experience. Critical Role is a show. Like, playing Dungeons and Dragons is not a show. Right? These are two different experiences. But at the end of the day, if you're going to hold that to your standard, 100%, Ian, your DM should 100% try to attain the level of storytelling that Matt Mercer has, and he should try to act the voices. He should practice doing a Cajun accent for a week in his car to and from work for an entire week, trying to make it good for his party, or her party, or their party. Like, that should be the expectation.
I remember the first time I used a voice in a game. It was like one of my first games. One of the players talked me down and says, "Don't do that anymore. We don't play like that." Man, that guy was an asshole.
No, actually, what is the first thing, like, once I told you your basics, your roll stats, 46, et cetera, as far as your basic rule goes, what was the other in-game rule I had for you guys?
Have a voice.
Have a voice.
Yeah.
Have a voice.
Makes sense.
That is one thing I do in my parties. Like, it gets your normal person that is not a voice actor into their character. Have a voice. It doesn't have to be your Slavic accents. Looking at Ian and Kit here, but they do them well. It doesn't have to be the person that manipulates their accent every other campaign, or every other session, depending on where they're at. Like Milo, again, I'm going to use him as an example. There's a plain voice. He just raises his pitch and does it a little bit more nasally. But Cody sounds just like Milo, except for, down a couple of octaves and not as nasally. Like, and that adds so much.
And I was going to say, like, even if you're not a professional voice actor, there are things you can do. Very simple things. Change your tonality, your pronunciation, like how you, like the tone, how you state things. Like, you always fall into a rhythm when you're talking. Try a different rhythm. You know, just add a little bit of grit. Try to
100%.
snarl it out a little bit more.
Most
Don't think you have to have a perfect Irish accent. Don't watch Shrek like Vermilion said and think you're the cock of the walk. Please. I mean, hey, if you want to do it though, please do. It's your game.
Donkey.
Donkey!
I mean, I don't know if you're playing in America, but this is America.
I think the point of it being is that there's room for improvement here in our game. We've sat in this bubble, a lot of us have, and a lot of us have sat in the same bubble that we're in right now that Kent was talking about. A lot of us have sat in this bubble for a very long time, very comfortable with where we're at, and the game is never elevated from where it is. And I think the Critical Role in the Matt Mercer effect is the chance to elevate our game.
I'm not gonna lie. I ran a game very recently for two of my cousins from my mother's side, very young gentlemen. They got into Critical Role on their own. They heard me playing D&D, and they wanted me to run a game for them. I think that's the most like I usually run for newer players all the time, but they definitely were thinking about Critical Role when they wanted me to run a game. And I said, listen, you know, obviously I told them, not Matt Mercer. My name is Matt. My last name does start with an M, but that's as far as we go. That's as far as we'll get.
Spit an image of it, Matt.
I told them, listen, I want you guys to enjoy the game. I want you guys to play something you like. Let's try it out. Let's run it. See if you like it. And they did. And so every time they come down, because they're like different parts of Georgia, one's in Alabama, and they don't have access to Skype or anything too often. But you know, not even just them, just any new player who's like, I've always wanted to play D&D, never had the opportunity. Can you run it? I've heard of Matt Mercer though for some reason, and but a lot of them haven't, because they're from the normies, so they say. They've never heard of Matt Mercer. They don't go on the internet and watch YouTube all day. They're busy working, the working man and woman. So you know, just do your best, get them comfortable. Tell them you don't have to make all these crazy voices. Just let's have a good time. You can drink if you want to.
Mythos, thank you so much for that comment, because I shit you not, for literally months now trying to I could not find the source, and I could not find where Liam said it at. So thank you so much for making that comment, actually. Like, bro, you have helped me out more than you realize. Yeah, 100%. Liam recommended that in something, I could not remember where it was, on accents, but Liam O'Brien in Critical Role is probably one of the best as far as accents go. 100%. So thank you so much for referencing that.
I'm definitely going to try and find some kind of German accent, because that's the accent I struggle with the most.
I
Unless
very
I'm
much
evil
hold it
German.
against Kent for how I talk during our campaign, because originally the accent wasn't supposed to be quite so heavy, but it is so hard to not go heavy with it when I have Kent sitting right there being really heavy. It's like I can't. It was supposed to be. It was.
You'll
like,
hang out with Ortel.
It was supposed to be fairly light, like Slavic kind of thing. It's impossible to escape. I can't
You think that's bad? I was trying to do Matilda as a dwarven, like, Scottish / Irish accent, and I am over here doing the fucking Slav accent that you guys are doing.
Oh, man.
It's so hard.
Another way that I fall short.
I feel like doing voices, regardless of what it is, it just feels really rewarding. Like as a player, like regardless, like it's fun.
I love to hear
It
that.
adds like a little bit of extra flavor and life. Like I really like the voices that I have for a couple of my other characters. Like I have a cleric who's big and he really talks slow and very just like it's like, and that's super fun to have a character who's like his voice makes my throat hurt because it's all like really rough on your throat.
Yeah, I think
But it's just fun.
Yeah, my own favorite voice is my Warforged. Like just toning up the bass of my own voice. Like I'm hitting so hard that it sounds like I'm creating an echo in the microphone. It's just rumbling the chest, but it hurts my throat every time, man, because I'm like trying to sound like Optimus Prime over here.
Yeah, I definitely that's the thing. I'd say encouraging your players to do a voice, any voice, is just so good because it's just fun. Like to have a thing that's so distinct about them.
I think it adds fun, but I think it adds something so much more important, and that's immersion. I think a player can separate themselves
Absolutely.
when they hop in and they start playing their character, right? Like, one thing I hear about, and Kent, I believe you told me this story, is that Laura Bailey hopped into Critical Role late, but the thing is she hopped into her character and immediately immersed herself. And that's not an easy thing to do by any stretch of the imagination. Like, being able to hop in, and we still struggle with it, I think, on Hard Knock Dice, to where, let's get this flow going, even with the accents and everything. But once we do, I think the accents help so much more to do. Yeah, it adds fun, but it adds immersion, because you're like, okay, this is my character now. I can speak in one voice to my DM saying that this is what I want to do, and then I can speak in one voice to the person to my right, we're in this combat, and saying, oh, you made a mistake, and continue on from there. Like, it adds just that extra level.
I have noticed some of our players getting more into character once they found their accent. Cough, Milgram, cough.
I mean, I know a lot of times people might be not comfortable to have a horrible voice, or they play with a group of people and really nobody uses voice. Just screw it. If they're your friends, they're not going to judge you for it. And if they're shitty enough to judge you for your bad voice acting, then fuck them.
Fuck them.
100%. 100%. Like,
yep.
Yeah, I know. Even still, I feel somewhat self-conscious when I bring in an accent like Gilly, or like with Gilly. Like, when I bring in a voice like that, but it, like, to have a player table that's supportive of that, and it's like chuckle, like, whatever the case is, like, that's so rewarding as a player or a DM. I feel like to be able to, like, these people are with me regardless of how dumb I look right now. Like, it gets rid of some of those insecurities for sure, and I think a DM will encourage that.
Hey, I love Gilly's voice. Gilly's hysterical. I'm just saying. But I mean, yeah, and it adds like some extra flavor. I think as a DM, especially since that is supposed to be our focus here, as a DM, doing different voices for different characters really helps add that, like, the atmosphere you're trying to go for. Like, if the setting, like you just described the entranceway to this, like, deep, kind of dank, dark cave. There's shadows everywhere, and there's like a little bit of water dripping down the walls. It's supposed to be kind of spooky, and you run into some hunched over figure, and then you just talk in your normal voice, kind of like, and like you said, it goes the same way with the DM as it does for the players. Like, that kind of hurts your immersion, as opposed to if you had them, like, talking in this really, like, hunched over or whatever, kind of like a gravelly voice or something that just seemed more icky, like that helps keep the tone of the story that's being told.
Right.
It helps keep it keeps everybody in that headspace.
Or, if you want to keep using Gilly as an example, where you have that exact same situation of being in a place with
we don't have to.
Well, I mean, it makes sense,
weird,
though, because of Gilly's visuals.
Right. But the reason one of the things that makes Gilly a funny character is that, you were in there fighting all types of undead monstrosities and stuff like that, and then basically this weird sounding, just completely not what you would expect to find in a cave, filled with monstrosities. It's just like, oh, okay. That's shocking.
Yeah.
Didn't expect that. All right.
We have a floating pancake that glows now. Hell yeah. Let's go.
He's got tentacles.
He's got tentacles, but he's also a big fucking pancake thing with eye stalks.
He is both of these things.
Undead schmundead flesh constructs. Close enough.
I think at the end of the day that voice acting, like, you don't have to be good at it at all. Like, I don't claim to be good at voice acting. That would be a damn curse to the name, that the profession that is voice acting. But what I do claim and take pride in is practicing for my players. If I want a character, an important NPC, Captain Henri is probably like
God, this was great.
that. Like, if you want your characters to or your players to enjoy it, practice it. And I don't think that there's nothing wrong with it. Find those times to practice. Like I said, from my drive to work and from work, every day for a week, I was practicing a Cajun accent and listening to the Cajun accent on YouTube videos because I legit just YouTube search Cajun accent and listen to people. Like, there's too many tools out there for you out there not to use. So it's such a good tool. Use accents, use voices for your characters. 100%. Like, I do not regret that decision. Loomer says, what do you guys think about homebrewing your own monsters for your party to fight? And would you care to have a look at one I made? I'm gonna...
Yes and yes.
Most definitely.
Absolutely. Like, I've played with guys who have homebrewed their own monsters. Like, I've even grabbed homebrew monsters to deal with some of the party before, just for fun.
Oh no!
Shoot.
Night, but time's out.
Quiet. Let it through.
I don't. You may have to DM it to Hydra, Vermilion Hydra.
I think, yeah, or Wyatt should be able to allow it. I think. I think it's one of the moderator tools you can do. I'm not sure.
Either Vermilion Hydra can let you, or you can link it to him in a DM, and he can send it to us, and we'll look at it on stream.
Right.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Creating your own monsters is something that I think is fun for any DM to do. I mean, they might not all hit exactly the same way you want them to hit, but yeah, that's a lot of fun. Because if you play D&D enough, you'll eventually get to that point to where you're like, okay, everybody pretty much knows what this or that is, and you just want to throw something in there that there's literally no chance that they know what it is. Like, it's a new thing.
You're like, it has the powers of like 12 different monsters. Fuck you. You're not gonna be able to pin this one down, motherfucker.
I didn't homebrew these characters, but I've always wanted to run like one of 3 different games. Like, there's one of those ideas that just pops into your mind. I've always wanted to run a Jurassic Park game, an Aliens game, and a Predator game. I managed to use all 3 in one game.
Yeah.
God damn it.
I had the most fun. Just like, well, guys, here's some aliens. All right, here's the Jurassic, Park Rex. I think the most fun I had was the Predator. Our friend Kent here took some plasma to the chest to protect his brother. That was awesome. Like a hero.
2d6 plus 2 piercing.
All right,
I
so
tried to self-destruct, didn't get there. That's my one regret.
Loomer, I got your monster. Give me a couple of seconds, and I'm gonna get it up on stream so we can go through this. Ian, what do you think about homebrewed monsters while I do this?
What do I think? Well, I love homebrewed monsters because they're interesting and more likely that like you're not really gonna know what it is based off of visuals. Like, there's sometimes something will get described and you're like, I think I know what that sounds like. And even if you don't act off of it, I'll say from a player's perspective, I really like not knowing what I'm fighting necessarily. And so even if I don't act on any knowledge that I have for figuring out what it is, it definitely I like it in that regard. And as a DM, I feel like that's just something that would be fun to be like, ooh, I want to like mix and match some of these things onto this custom monster because it sounds like they'd be fun. It'd be fun and exciting. Or if like you have a motif you're wanting to go for, like you have a dungeon that's filled with, I don't know, flesh constructs. You can go, okay, well, like it definitely makes sense to mix and match some things. And here's a monster visually, like this is what I want it to look like. What kind of things do I think it could do? And you just like start looking through monster abilities.
Right.
And so I think it can be great fun, especially if you're trying to make a motif of some kind. And I think it's fun for your players, unless they're like salty because they can't just think of what the monster is weak to because they played D&D for forever, which then fuck you because that's lame. Like I very specifically don't look up stats of things while we play, even if I recognize what it is, because I don't want to know.
Right. So, as far as what I think about homebrew monsters, before we hop into your monster, Loomer, I love them. One, I've introduced a couple of them. What I really enjoy though is adding classic D&D monsters with a new homebrew twist. I love doing that because I know all of these guys are versed in Dungeons and Dragons. They know your classic monsters, but I like introducing them with some sort of new twist. Um, so take that as you leave it. I can't talk too much because I feel like I'll end up fucking spoiling something because it's what I do. But one of the last monsters they actually just fought in the main campaign Heart of Hard Knock Dice is it's a monster in one of the source books, but it is changed, and the aesthetics of it was changed, and some of the stats of it were changed. So I highly enjoy it. Might need to turn down Nightbot on auto blocking links. I will look to that after this episode's Hydra. Please remind me. Thank you.
Yeah, it did. It did. Lily may need to shoot the link to White as well.
Yeah, Lily, if you'll.
I'd assume that's the false Hydra there.
Is that the false Hydra?
Oh, is that in Discord? Okay, we'll look at that next, Lily, and then after the false Hydra, we will have some closing statements about DMing and whatnot, and we'll end it from there. Yeah, we'll wrap up from there. So let's look at Loomer's twin-headed Viper Hound. It's a medium beast, so your size as a character most of the time. Chaotic neutral as an alignment. It's interesting that you included an alignment. I'm gonna take this line by line. You linked it to me. That's a mistake. But I think it's interesting you gave it an alignment as a beast. Interesting to me.
I would say most beasts are kind of chaotic neutral. When I think if you want to go with the broad generalization, I think a lot of beasts kind of fall into that category.
I think it depends. I mean, you have. Wait, go ahead, Kent.
I think most beasts are true neutral.
That's what I was going to go with.
Are they?
Yeah. As a general consensus, I think anything with a certain intellect starts off at true neutral. But I also see an intellect of 5, which we'll work our way down to that. Armor class of 12, hit points of 40, average of 40, the speed of 40 feet, so we're looking a little bit quicker. With a challenge rating of 2, I'm gonna skip down to challenge rating real quick. CR 2. All right. I think it's interesting that you gave it alignment, and its armor class is pretty low, with its dex being pretty high, so it's got no natural armor bonus, is what I'm seeing. Intelligence of 5, so it is a fairly smart creature. Is that supposed to reflect the twin-headed nature?
That's a good point.
2 heads are better than 1.
I mean, maybe, but a lot of like I'll either see higher intellect on a 2-headed monster, or some other things that they give in 5e, for example, are for 2 heads, they'll give them advantage on saving throws, or just completely immune to things like charm or blinded or something like that. Oh yeah, Loomer says that the higher intellect is supposed to sort of represent the 2-headed nature of the beast. Okay.
Okay.
All right, we're looking at a perception of +3, passive perception of 13, which all makes sense. Cannot understand or speak any languages. Keen hearing and smell. The hound has advantage on wisdom perception checks that rely on hearing or smell. That's interesting.
I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah.
Thinking of especially if you're thinking of use cases for them, but especially because if it's a lower challenge rating, if you have a higher leveled party, you could have a hound master, or if they're being hunted by something, you would have some of these things.
It's interesting to me that you only chose hearing or smell, because there's no indication. I don't have a monster description here, so I'm just going off of what I see. I just see that it has 2 heads, but hearing or smell, and it doesn't have advantage on sight perception checks as well.
Also, I think it would be a lot easier to determine what was what for its perceptions if I mean, does this thing actually have literal viper heads? Is it like a two-headed Night Stalker from Fallout?
Oh yeah, beast artwork would help because I was thinking I was thinking a two-headed dog. I'm not gonna lie, but that's just a mental image.
But yeah, but so you got to remove the viper part. So it's some kind of snake dog thing.
Right. So if it has senses that might be more in tone with a snake, that means it's got two of those little tongues.
Yeah, the little that taste the air.
It has dog heads with snake tongues. Okay.
Like,
All right.
Okay.
So, and the last part, the meat and potatoes, the bite. And it has multi-attack, by the way, so it can make two
like
bite
actual
attacks.
Snakes for tongues.
Wait.
Oh, God.
That's terrifying.
We're going.
Dear God.
Into the rabbit hole. Some Greek myth here.
I was thinking forked tongues originally,
Yeah,
and then you
that's what I
scared
was
the shit out of me.
So it's like a dog xenomorph, but with
Oh,
snakes.
That's
God.
exactly what I was thinking. It's just like, hey, you're a nice guy, and then it just bites you and poisons you. Like, why would you do that?
You absolute fool!
So
You're like, oh, it can't bite me from over there, dumbass snake tongue.
so this would explain the bite. It can make two of these bites, by the way. Melee attack weapon, +5 to hit, reaches 5 foot, one target. The hit is 2d6 plus 2 piercing damage, plus 2d4 poison damage. If the target is a creature, it must succeed on a DC 11 Constitution saving throw or be poisoned till the end of its next turn.
That's a pretty generous poison, actually.
Do you think so at level 2? I mean,
Well, you have to
CR2.
also take in consideration that Artyom's Constrictor Snake that he summons up is only a CR2. So these things do deal a lot more damage and do give you the debilitating poison effect. But,
So what could this
pretty
thing,
fine to me.
What would this thing average for damage? So it'd be about 3, 6, 8. 8 plus another 4. Be averaging about 12 damage on a hit.
Yeah.
Plus you're possibly getting poisoned.
Yeah, and I know you were talking about giving it pack tactics,
And
but
that's
you can kind of rationalize not giving it pack tactics because it's got 2 heads. It's kind of temperamental. It's not working together with like the lower wolves. It'll snap at them trying to get like what belongs to him. So and I feel like pack tactics might be a bit much on.
Do you?
With that poison downing a wizard.
I think it depends on your party.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that'd be situationally give it pack tactics, especially if perhaps like maybe they don't naturally have pack tactics. Like if you come across them in the wild, like they're a bit more like Matt was saying, temperamental. But then if you run into like some goblins or like a hobgoblin or orcs or something that are using them as like hunting animals, then they've been born and bred for this kind of thing, and so then like that'd also be like a higher level encounter. A lot more justifiable. Like, this group of them have pack tactics.
Yeah, just put an optional flavor text. Those trained in captivity have the choice of pack tactics or something like that.
I think that makes a lot more idea.
Like this thing could definitely be as the party grows, you could see bigger and better versions. Where's the dire twin-headed viper hound? That's what I want to see.
I'd shit my pants.
So one that has like a basilisk for a tongue.
So Loomer, what it sounds like is I might be using your monster.
Well, I'm trying to think. Okay, how is it they do CR? Is it assumed that the party's level is like it's based off of like a party of 4?
A party of 4. A CR2 creature should be enough for a typical party of level 2 4 players.
4
level 2 players. But
so let's see.
But I think D&D and the typical CR rating system leaves it in the players' favor every time. I think this beast would, like, if I were to run this for you guys, 4 of you at level 2, I would absolutely include 2 of these, 100%.
I think
no doubt about it. And give them pack tactics.
Well, they have multi attack though. The thing is, they get 2 of these attacks, and if they both hit, there aren't a ton of characters that'll stay up from 2 hits of that.
At lower levels, I could see pack tactics giving 2 of these 4 attacks with advantage and having poison on top of that could get out of hand pretty quick.
One of them maybe not as bad, but so yeah. I don't know. I'm just saying because if you get hit, speaking of someone who's gotten hit by multi attack at a very low level and gotten slapped like a motherfucker, yeah, it definitely can be rough. So I think their damage can be, it might be a tad high, but I guess it's also assuming that they can be picked back up. So I don't know.
The AC is pretty low. The hit points are pretty beefy for this level, but I think the AC is fairly low. I think it would completely depend on who I was playing with, because if I run this for you guys who optimize the class that they're playing, this could be maybe not 2 and pack tactics, but two of these monsters.
Maybe make the poison a 1d6 rather than a 2d4, so slightly knocking down its average damage.
I was going to say the opposite of making the standard bite do less damage. 2d6 seems pretty high. That dog's biting you with the ferocity of a greatsword.
So you said like make it 2d4 like Loomer is saying in the chat, or a 1d6, or like half its dice. You can always half its dice, and then
standard wolf is what, 1d8 for its bite, or 1d6?
But yeah, I can't remember. You could knock it down to a 1d6 and then up its flat damage by 1 or 2 points.
The thing is about a wolf, though, they also get they get pack tactics, but 2, they also get free trip attempt. Yeah,
that's true.
I'm just talking about the pure sense. Okay, no, it's 2d4 for an actual standard wolf. But I'm just talking about the fact that it's got teeth and then a relatively same size head for the logic of the character.
Right.
Or the creature. But yeah, it seems pretty neat.
I think it's very neat. Like Jen said, its AC might be a little low for having 40 hit points, because let's see, like if your players at level 2 have like 16s, so +3, they could hypothetically kill it in 1 round if they roll really well, or 1.5 rounds ish with only 40 HP. But if you maybe chunk up its AC a smidge,
I think
increase its longevity.
Loomer, my opinion would be, I think your piercing, because to see your last question is to maybe make the piercing 2d4. I think your piercing is perfectly fine. It is very dangerous, the piercing part of it. Maybe tone down your poison damage to 1d4, because it also does disadvantage for the next couple of rounds until the end of its next turn. But yeah, I think you've got a good creature on your hands. You got a really good creature. I think we have one more to go over. Let me pull this up real quick.
I've actually seen this before. This is one of the coolest creatures I've ever seen.
The False Hydra?
Yeah.
Ian, for some reason, you just got really loud. I'm gonna have it. Yes, we want to remove that one. Thank you so much, Loomer, for sharing that with us. I may or may not throw that at these guys eventually.
Bring it on. Also, while he's moving stuff, Madbot, we move past your question, since you're a little less familiar with D&D. It doesn't necessarily, like, not unless it's explicitly stated, you can make a monster that you kind of want to specifically, if your party moves to impair it, if it has multiple heads and you cut it off, you might make it weaker. There's not an inherent trait, though, of monsters with multiple heads.
Technically is something that's part of the next creature, though.
Is that something that's stated for the False Hydra?
Indeed.
I definitely think that makes sense, especially for Hydras in their lore, is like they're like cutting things off to make them weaker.
Yeah, Mad Dog. Yeah, it's going to take up some camera space because there's a description above it. Unfortunately, we'll move it down here to the bottom so we can read the description first.
You can cover me up. That's fine.
Nah. that robe is too glorious.
Yeah, let's just get it over here.
All right, but yeah, Mad Dog. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to skip over your question, man. If it cut off one head, does it cut its stats in half? That completely depends on your DM and how they're running things. So
Yep.
you could cut off one head and they could say, oh, this has this effect, or you could cut off one head and they say, oh, that has no effect. So it completely depends. Right. The interesting thing about D&D and the crux of D&D is it all depends on your DM and who you're playing with.
Your imagination.
Yep.
Yeah.
So especially like if you have a player that does something, they really are specifically trying to cut off a head, and they do something like cool or whatever, and if you just want to reward them for doing something that was badass, like they nat 20'd an acrobatics check to do like a flip off the wall and behead the creature, like behead one of its heads, and you're like, okay, it now has like some negative status effect.
100%. All right, we got about 15 minutes left, so let's wrap up False Hydra. That we'll give our thoughts, and then we'll move on. So, False Hydra, you walk into a small town, everything seems all right, except it's a little off. The town seems pretty big, but you don't see nearly as many people as there should be. Dozens of houses lie empty and dilapidated. Oh, I love that word. And everybody you ask says nobody ever lived in them. Animals keep freaking out unexpectedly. You trip over seemingly nothing. You arrive at an inn run by a lovely married couple. Oh no, Matilda. In the morning, only the wife remains. Oh no, Matilda. And she claims she never married. Oh no, Matilda. She cries when you press her about it, and she doesn't know why. This town is the unwitting lair of a false Hydra. And you've probably already seen it and forgotten about it dozens of times since you've gotten here. Holy shit!
Lord.
Yeah, it's fucking awesome.
That description was fucking A+, homie. Holy shit. Woo.
Nice.
Woo. Holy shit. All right, let's look at this stat block. Let me I'm going to put it up in the middle of the screen. But I'm going to be doing some cropping while we're talking. So you guys talk while I do this.
I got to do the boomer zoom to actually read its stats.
Hurtfully.
It's a large. Does that say large to huge aberration?
Yes.
So I guess it's just you just determine how big you want it to be.
And it's neutral evil.
Yeah, it burrows too, which is even more terrifying.
It can only move 5 feet if it's above ground though. There's an argument to be made for trying to grapple this thing if you can get big, like Matt was saying with a Rune Knight.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, if you can get big enough to just yank it out the ground, that's fine. But if something grapples you, 5 feet's a long way down when you can't go anywhere.
Right. Well, like that's the thing is if you can find a way to keep it above ground, it's not getting very far because its move speed is only 5.
Yeah, for sure.
So if you can think of a tactical way to keep it from being able to burrow.
Mythos says they love the False Hydra. I've never heard of this beast before.
Yeah, I've never heard of it before. It sounds
insane.
Super fucking neat though.
150 HP plus 100 for each additional head.
Oh, how does it? Oh God, I want to know.
That's 4 heads I see in the picture at least.
Yeah, how many heads does it have?
It has.
Do you just increase its number of heads as you want it to be harder? Because that makes its CR really hard to pin down, which I guess is why it's not listed.
Yeah, I was about to say it doesn't have a CR listed.
Yeah, it does. I guess it does because of that. Because
CR based on heads.
Its difficulty can get so higher.
The older it gets, the more heads it gets. I don't know.
Mythos says it's all about the regional effects as well.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
100%.
So it can't be blinded, charmed, deafened. It can't be grappled. It is immune to grappling. Can't be stunned or knocked unconscious. Or it can't be knocked prone. That makes sense. Dark rating now to 120.
Interesting. It doesn't list restrained there.
That might be something I would add in there.
Yeah, it's set.
And use this monster.
Restrained is separate from grapple, just FYI. So that should be listed there. If it's restrained, if it's immune to grapple, it should be immune to restrained as well. I would assume.
I'd rule it. That's how I'd rule it because that's logically speaking.
All right.
Only an intelligence of 8. Interesting. 20 charisma, 20 wisdom. Wow.
I guess because it's supposed to be
a very likable, terrifying creature.
Right. If you see this, you don't. Can you tame monsters in D&D? D&D is the endless possibilities, Madbot. Like, anything you want to do in D&D. If you want to sit and talk about D&D for a little bit, sort of offline, and about what you can do and the sort of the fun stuff of it, we should absolutely do that. 20 charisma, super interesting to me, especially since I'm looking at that picture and it is so fucking ugly.
Well, charisma can also be a strength of will as well.
Yeah,
I
100%.
think it's more of like it's a really really intimidating presence.
Right, like,
The force of will is insane. Like Mythos is saying. Same thing as Lily's saying the same thing. Yeah, that's what I kind of figured it was.
It's immune to being knocked unconscious. Okay.
Yep.
I think that's kind of oddly specific.
Yeah, right.
So because you can't sleep it, man, you would have to upcast the shit out of that, or it'd have.
I mean, it makes sense.
Well,
you try to knock it unconscious, it just grows another head.
Well, sleep is charmed. That's a charm effect. So it seems either redundant or I'm trying to think of something that would be
Is sleep a
specifically.
charm effect?
Well, you can
Yes.
you can poison something to put it to sleep.
Yeah, but it's
So
also
something
because
specific.
it's
In
not
any case.
immune to poison. Okay, it doesn't have a poison immunity. Most of it, all of its immunities are status effects. It doesn't have any resistances either.
Languages. Understands the languages of its victims. That's terrifying. Like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I guess they're supposed to be able to show up wherever.
So I guess
Just,
we,
like,
we need to
know
keep
where
reading to
now.
understand that a little bit more.
Yeah. So was it its first ability is Blind Song?
Mhm.
All hostile creatures that can hear the Hydra sing must make a DC 15 Wisdom saving throw at the start of their turn. If the Hydra sings with more than one head, all hostile creatures must subtract 1d4 from their saving throws. On a failure, the creature forgets the Hydra is there.
What?
So I guess that's
What?
horrifying.
Yeah.
So if it just does that in the middle of combat, will you just go,
Yeah.
I was doing something.
And you will
What
walk
was I doing?
away. Oh
And
my
you'll just
god.
you'll just fuck off like I gotta go get some eggs. Like what?
But it doesn't necessarily that you can't see it. So if your party is fighting it and they succeed,
Yeah.
but you fail, they can be like, yo, focus up. We're fighting something here.
Right.
You'd be like,
I guess
oh,
this is
oh
supposed to
yeah.
be- This is supposed to be more for the like it remaining hidden thing, like it was saying in the description, like in the town.
Right.
There,
Like
There-
it's keeping from being noticed at all in the first place.
I think there was an extended explanation that a lot of situations evolve to where only one head will just pop out of the ground, grab someone in front of a bunch of people or something like that, and then they won't remember.
Yeah, that's like what Mythos is saying. Like it's definitely supposed to be like you show up in a town and it's mad spooky the longer you're there.
Oh man. That's terrifying.
Yeah.
So yeah, like yeah. That
They
makes sense.
all forget about the lost victims. It's great. Oh my god. This is
It's
so
wonderful.
evil. I love it.
I think it's so creepy.
Alright, multi-attack. It can use a claw attack and a bite attack on its turn. Only +5 to hit on the bite. Its reach is 15 foot, one target, 1d10 plus 3 piercing damage. So the bite actually is not that scary.
Yeah, it's damage doesn't seem to be absolutely all that bad. Because its bite isn't bad either. It's a 1d8 plus 3.
Right.
It's got plenty of HP, and I mean,
Yeah, it's gonna soak like a motherfucker, but like
especially with regrowth.
All I'm saying is that it doesn't matter how much HP you have. If you get grabbed by a head and just left 20 feet on the ground, you're gonna have a bad day.
well, yeah. But
Yeah.
what is it? It has a strength of plus 3. Like,
Lily says it doesn't especially need to be deadly because you aren't going to remember or realize what's going on. Yeah, that's absolutely true.
yeah,
Especially with
absolutely.
a high level one. I think what I would do is reword the multi attack because it says it can use a claw attack and a bite attack on its turn. I would reword that to say that it can use a bite attack for every head that it has. I think that would make it much
the
more
rest of the actions first.
Yeah, you should look.
Oh, okay, all right,
some
all
of
right.
the
We
other
have
stuff
maybe
before you make that.
maybe I'm skipping ahead. All right, we're
Yeah.
skipping ahead. All right, well, let's go down to bonus actions. Me and Ian are skipping ahead here. Sing. The Hydra can use a bonus action to stop singing or to start its song with an additional head. All right, so that's its blind song.
Yeah.
Regrowth. The Hydra can use a bonus action to begin regrowing a head that has died. It takes 3 regrowth points. 3 regrowth bonus actions to fully regrow a head. It regains 20 hit points each time it uses regrowth.
So yeah, it can get 20 hit points around. It's pretty.
Yeah. It makes this thing able to soak for
Right.
days.
Which basically is it can live to fight another day, and then
Yeah,
you can't see it.
it'll just run away. Yeah, because its whole thing is that it primarily preys on like towns of normal people.
What I didn't see also, because you're saying it can live for days, not reactions. I'm gonna go back actually. It's got a burrow speed of 40 feet.
Yeah.
So not only can it just say I'm losing this fight because I'm not outputting enough damage, but they've forgotten about me. I'm just gonna go underground for a while.
Yeah. Just leave. Just
Literal underground. I did not see the burrow speed. That's pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Cool,
but
pretty good.
that's what I was
Jeepers
saying. Like,
creepers.
if you can find a way to keep it above ground, that's going to be one of your best ways to fight it.
Right.
Is if you can force it to stay above ground, because it's only got a movement speed of 5
Right.
if it's not burrowed.
All right, let's
Whale-
look at these reactions, and then we're going to call it for tonight, guys. Multi-react. The Hydra can make 2 reactions per round as long as it has 3 or more heads. That's good, because that's the only reaction that I know that exists in 5e like that. That is the only... Or except... Oh, no, actually, there's a beast in... what is the Greek book? Mythic Heroes of Theros, or whatever the name of it is.
Yeah.
Mythic Odysseys of Theros.
Mythic Odysseys of Theros. There's a creature in there that can do sort of the same thing, much higher CR than this, though. But I don't... there's not many things that can do that.
This just makes me want to play a Theros game just because of the Hydra. It's just like, let's go.
It's
Let's get our
funnily
spirits
enough,
wet.
I'm not talking about a Hydra as far as making reactions goes. And then Whale, after taking damage, after taking damage, the Hydra can use a reaction to wail. Creatures within the 5 foot of the Hydra, when it wails, take 2d4 psychic damage. There's
No
a
save, just take it.
yeah,
yeah.
Yeah,
Within
that
5
actually
feet.
increases its lethality by a lot.
yeah.
If you've got multiple melee people.
Our fighter runs up to it, hits it twice, and then it just takes 46 psychic damage. Or wait, 44.
Like a 44 psychic
44
damage.
psychic damage.
Like
yeah.
that'll add up, and you're probably not gonna resist it. Your barbarian can run up and slap it. Too bad, you're losing that HP.
So I
Your
wouldn't
mage-
rate the lethality of the False Hydra super high. The coolness factor of the False Hydra is off the charts. Like without a
it's
doubt.
super nifty, and it can be one of those things where it's like, yeah, it's an RP thing, and I mean it can be deadly under the right circumstances. It's got the HP to whittle down your party.
100%. A stubborn party, namely.
Yeah. If your party really, really wanted to make sure it died, it would probably disappear. It'd probably run because that's not its primary goal, right?
And
And it
would-
the other thing that you have to take in consideration is that you don't have to see the False Hydra for its song to affect you. So it could just literally burrow away from you and then start singing. And as long as you can hear it, you'll forget about it. And it could be behind your party or something and it just leave.
Was there a range? It just says all hostile creatures that can hear the Hydra. But there's no range on that song, which is
Yeah.
interesting to me.
I mean, I would use some common sense there, of course.
Yeah.
When you say common sense, but what is that in D&D? Like,
What-
especially with a creature that can burrow, like, is that 300 feet? Is that 500 feet? Like, what is that?
Burrow near a cavernous area near the beach, and the caverns are very acoustic, so they just spread
Exactly.
out the entire area.
Like, anything
joke,
with
but-
very... Yeah, that...
I'm serious, actually. Like, this is a creature you could use for like almost like a 1 to 10, maybe even higher game. I think it would be pretty fun.
yeah.
Well, I mean, it can definitely be a thing. It could be a repeated problem. Like maybe this is a thing that like you're being sent out by this kingdom or like you're part of an adventurers guild, and there have been reports of people going missing in this town to the west, and you got to figure out what the fuck is going on
Right.
and handle it. And now you're going into the town, and you've got all this RP weirdness of how things are going on there. So you're trying doing like some investigating, and you get your first sighting of it, and you fight a little bit, but then it runs away and makes you guys forget about it.
Right. So we are sitting at 8:59 p.m., boys, and we're going to keep this to a 9 p.m. talk here. So let's go around really quick. Final thoughts for the evening. Anything else that you didn't get to say that you want to say? Let's hear it. Any shout outs, announcements, whatever you got. Let's hear it. Go.
Hope
I got
Ian
nothing.
doesn't die.
Me too. Funnily enough, I want to live.
No, I think the false hydra is one of the coolest creatures I've seen, so I'm happy
Super nifty.
Billy jumped in and shared that. That was pretty awesome.
I have to agree. That was pretty awesome to see. Thanks for sharing your guys' monsters. It was fun to pause and just look at people's homebrew creations. We should definitely look at some more sometime.
Oh heck yeah! I like there's so like I seeing other people's ideas are awesome. Hey, I'm glad you liked it, Loomer. That was that. Thanks for sharing it. It's a cool monster, and seeing other people's creativity and making their own shit is just cool to do.
Yeah,
100%.
Thank you for participating so actively. Y'all were awesome.
do stuff like put these guys in Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah.
Things I will
Everybody has
say.
to fight against the Glavins.
But
And
yeah, that's
just
all
kinda-
I got.
All right. We'll wrap up tonight, and I will say, as far as new DMs or experienced DMs, whatever the case is, important takeaways from tonight. Session 0, super important. Knowing your table, super important. Making sure your table knows you is super important. Matt Mercer, not super important as far as gauging your skill goes. Try to get better. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. Mythos, Bobicus, Loomer, thank you all so much for coming in here. I appreciate you guys, especially those monsters. I really enjoyed that. We're going to have to do a stream on that as well. Thank you so much for your time tonight. Make sure, if you haven't already, leave a follow, guys, as always. We stream our main campaign every Saturday at 2 p.m. Eastern Time. We stream Tavern Talks every Wednesday. I'm sorry. Thank you so much for the follow, Lily. We leave we do Tavern Talks every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, where we just kind of shoot the shit back and forth like we did tonight about specific topics. But our main campaign, like I said, Saturdays at 2 p.m. Tune in there. Same stream, same people that you'll see here. Thank you guys again so much. Much love, and peace out. Have a good one.
Y'all take it easy.
Bye, guys.